We have all heard about amazing stories about simple, ordinary, everyday people doing these incredible acts of heroism. For instance, a mother who somehow finds the adrenaline power to lift a truck to free her child, which is trapped underneath. Or we've seen stories about people who will rush in to tackle a shooter that's on a rampage. We've seen stories about people that go into burning buildings to save the life of another human or animal. We've heard stories where strangers come upon a car accident and they go rushing in to save the driver and passengers from what would have been a certain death. When interviewed, we always hear these people saying, "I'm not a hero. I just did what anybody would have done." Heroes. Our nation celebrates heroes this Memorial Day weekend. We remember and we honor those who chose to put their lives, their needs, their wishes aside to take care of the needs and the wishes and the desires of others. And they died as a result of their choice. We have benefited greatly from their brave choices. And now we get to choose. How will we use the freedoms that they have preserved for us? The focus of Memorial Day is the military. But members of our armed forces are not the only ones who have made choices to put other lives ahead of their own. Under the current circumstances that we're living under, we can't help but think of other non-military leaders and heroes in our midst. Medical personnel, store clerks, truck drivers, agricultural workers, packaging plant employees, essential workers. So many who are choosing to put our safety, our lives, our health ahead of their own. These past few months have brought forth a multitude of heroes, making everyday sacrifices, everyday courageous choices to benefit us. Jesus says to his disciples in our gospel reading for today, "Love one another as I have loved you. No one has greater love than this, than to lay down one's life for the sake of one's friends." You know, I have said there is no greater feeling, no greater drug than the feeling of falling in love. The joy, the excitement, the sheer dopamine rush that comes from loving and being loved is like no other. But Jesus is telling us in this scripture reading we have for today, love is not always warm and fuzzy. It's not always a flood of feel-good endorphins. There are times when love is a serious, intentional, heavy choice that doesn't always feel so light and fluffy, especially when it's a sacrificial love like Jesus has for us. He chose to love us over saving his own life. As we live through this coronavirus, you know, the laws and ordinances put into place seem to change every single day. It's hard to rely on what to believe. Right now, government orders have been lifted. We have been told to open our businesses, our churches, our restaurants. So now we're left with a choice. Do we want to be a hero or not? I mean, come on. Really, who doesn't want life to get back to normal, the way it was before this stinking COVID virus hit us? Don't we all want to gather in big groups, whether that's in our homes or our churches or anywhere? Don't we all want to travel far and wide on vacations? Don't we all want to take our time and leisurely wander through stores and malls? Don't we all just want to grab hold of people we love and hold them tight? But the reality is still out there. Life is not normal. And it probably won't go back to normal for a very long time, if ever. The virus is still out there. It's still just as dangerous and deadly as it was a few months ago. The only difference now is that we have the freedom to choose. We have the freedom to choose whether or not we're going to shelter at home. We have the freedom to choose whether or not we're going to wear masks. We have the freedom to choose to practice social distancing or not. We get to choose how we are going to respond to this deadly pandemic. We get to figure out, how do we balance our rights and our freedoms as Americans with our Christian calling to love each other as Jesus has loved us? We get to decide whether or not to put the lives and the needs of others before ours. We get to choose to be heroes or not. How do you want to use the freedoms that was won for you through our ancestors who fought so bravely for our country? Do you want to follow in their footsteps and be an everyday incredible hero as well? Do you want to follow in the footsteps of Jesus Christ, who loved us even at the expense of his own life? Keeping our church buildings closed is one great sacrifice we can make to love each other as Christ has loved us. Our ministry is far from closed. It's just our buildings that are closed. Love one another as Jesus has loved us. Call, text, email, reach out to one another and share the love of God in every one of your words and actions and attitudes. Practice patience and be a hero. May it be so for you and for me. Amen.